Good morning, Nita.
Good morning.
Thank you again for agreeing to do this interview. We do appreciate it. Can you talk about your journey into shoe design? When and how did it all begin?
That's a long story, Tim. However, it started when I was 18 years old. I worked with my dad straight out of college. Didn't have the headache of looking for a job. So I was tauqueño, lady boss. And what exactly happened over there was I didn't probably pay full attention to the business. And after 10 years of working with my father, I closed this business down. You can say it was some unfinished business. So 20 years later, after pursuing an MBA in retail and a diploma in shoe construction and design, it was with the support of my husband that we opened a retail store in Millennia Walk. That was my first store.
And how did this brand Vincitore come about? Was it your creation or did you take over a brand? Tell me a bit.
So Vincitore is actually a brand that's made out of artisans in Italy. Now, with the vast knowledge that I have with European shoes, I needed shoes that would fit the Asian man. And unlike fashion, Asian cutting for fashion is small. Italian shoes have always been fitted for the feet that are slim and long. So in order for me to come up with something that suits my market, I had to work with artisans and develop a line that would be suitable for the Asian market that I am dealing in. And thus, with the collaboration with the Italians, Vincitore, which is already something that exists in Italy, was brought to Singapore but differentiated. Now, when you have a market that requires a difference in the last, you've got to do something about it, or else you'll get stuck with whatever it is that you bring in.
And can you talk a little bit more about the shoemaking process? What's involved going from a sketch to the finished product?
So we have ideas that come up in our head. The whole ethos of Vincitore is for our men not to only wear black and brown shoes. So growing up, my father used to always wear two-tone shoes. And I can tell you he was one of the few people in Singapore that dared to wear that. So I guess I'm influenced by what I've seen growing up. And so I choose to play with a lot of colors. And the reason why Vincitore was created in the first place was to provide men that option of navy blue shoes, burgundy shoes, olive shoes, and whatever else, we can pair with the various colors of our outfits.
And I understand that when you first started at Millennia, you had a philosophy where you did not want any black shoes.
Absolutely.
Talk a bit more about that. How did that come about?
So when I opened the store at Millennia Walk, I opened the store with not a single pair of black shoes. And every customer who walked in kept asking me, where are your black shoes? Where are your black shoes? But in my head, I was like, if you need a pair of black shoes, you can get them anywhere else. Come to me when you're ready to own your style. However, I had to succumb to their demands. I actually brought in 6 designs in black. And Tim, I kid you not, some of the designs still exist in the store. I haven't sold them out.
And speaking about design and design trends, right? How often do you feel you need to refresh designs? And how much of what you carry constitutes evergreen design?
So, men, honestly, they really don't change their style very much. If you play with colors and if you change the design too much, they get a little bit, out of their skin. So in terms of the need to design, twice a year, coming out with some, fresh designs is something that I follow. Is it necessary? No, but I'd like to follow that trend. And in terms of being too loud with my designs, I have gone to a stage where I've been very loud. But I face the consequence of not being able to sell the stock, especially to locals. I really need to find the right customer to fit into that shoe. But that's when a design has gone overboard, and it does happen sometimes.
So how and when do you decide to push the envelope designs with?
As and when I feel that I've heard from the customer and he shares with me that he would like, maybe a penny loafer with a difference or a derby shoe with a different kind of lacing, I then tend to, sit down and think about it and see what I can do with the silhouette.
And talk a bit more about your design process when you start sketch.
Yes.
What are you thinking of, and what are the next steps before it actually becomes a shoe, or before you actually show it to the people in Italy?
So it normally, it starts from me liking something, and then I sit down and I think about how this can be translated into a pair of shoes for men. And then I put it down on a sketch and I refine it, retune it. By the time I get to Italy, that may change as well. So then, after having a discussion with my factory, we decide on how best to portray this design. I win some, I lose some. So it's mainly influenced by something that has caught my eye as I am looking around. It could be colors of nature. It could be geometric patterns that I see on natural things like trees and things like that. So I'm always on the lookout for uniqueness, I guess.
So yeah, we're talking about shoe design and shoe manufacture, and there are limits. You can't design a shoe all new from the ground up. There are certain templates that you must use. So can you talk a bit more about the limits of how you can design a shoe and the limits of what needs to rely on, I suppose, traditional templates and traditional.
So there is this misconception that you can design a shoe or last a shoe for any shoe shape. It's a very expensive process and it's a very detailed process which needs the engagement of both the client and the designer. So the fact of the matter is that we work with lasts, and each last it can be tweaked and tempered, but it has its limitations. So I once had a customer who had a foot that was shaped in an odd manner, and no matter how much I tried, I could not find anybody who would construct that shoe in that shape. So that made me realize, and I further confirmed this with the teachers that have been kind enough to impart their knowledge with me, that there is a limitation. So how wide it can go, how long it can go, really depends on the calculations that we put in constructing the last, and we have to work within those constraints.
So the last is already predetermined to an extent, and you're just deciding what goes on top.
The last can be created. You can create a new last, but the process takes a lot of time and is a costly affair. And if you're going to make a last that is only going to be for one shoe or for a few shoes that you want, if it's a few shoes, it works. If it's just for one shoe, it may not be feasible in terms of the time and the effort that it takes. But there are customers who want their own last, and every time they make a shoe, it will be on their last. However, when we put on weight, our feet also puts on weight. So the shoe will be tight. And when you lose weight, your feet also lose weight, and then your shoe becomes too loose. So the human body, as you know, fluctuates. And to begin with, our one foot is bigger than the other, naturally. Now, if you play football, that bigger foot might be even bigger. So there are lots that we need to consider. So basically what I do is when I create a design, I look at the spread of the toes and I look at the spread of the width of the foot. And accordingly, I also determine the depth of the shoe because the width can expand out based on the depth. And with that, it creates more comfort. And the materials that I use, like kangaroo skin, is very apt for people with wide feet. So is deer skin. I stay away from lamb skin because it tears easily. And I am very, very comfortable with full grain calf leather. I don't really like crust, although it's very nice for the dyeing process. So each skin has got its, uniqueness, and it's with that I decide on which skin to use on the designs that I've created.
And what has been your most successful design? Can you talk about that?
It's been a very simple design. It is actually a derby with a toe cap. What I did was I just introduced another color in terms of the trimming on the toe cap. I introduced another color in terms of the laces and the vamp. And that translated into a lot of customers just very naturally picking up that shoe, and we matched it with a matching belt. So the customer was able to wear that shoe with any color pants because the color of the shoe was actually tan. And that worked with navy, it worked with brown, it worked with black, and all colors of gray.
So, as both designer and retailer, you are uniquely positioned, right, to have the benefit of getting feedback direct from customers, right? And sometimes that feedback, usually that feedback can be quite negative if you don't sell the shoe. So how do you deal with this? How do you manage this?
Feedback is a gift. I appreciate feedback, and I take all the information in so that I can better my design the next time. You can't please everybody. There are customers who have supported me for years and do not cringe when it comes to, throwing the fact that something has gone wrong with the shoe. However, things do happen. It's okay. Feedback is always valued, and I work on the feedback that I get and improve along the way. There are limitations and we have to work around them.
And based on your experience, right? So you have successful shoes and you have less successful shoes. What is that ratio?
My successful shoes are higher than my unsuccessful shoes. And I just wait for the right foot to come in through the door for me to put on a shoe that was created with my passion. And I look forward to seeing it on a man who shares that passion with me.
Now, you've been doing this for 7, 8 years now?
8 years now, yes.
How do you retain this passion for shoe design and for the shoe business?
I'm not sure this answer is going to go down very well with you, but I love men who look good. And men who dress well, I think, are in itself a treat to the eye. As women, we look at men from top to toe. And the toes, depending on what's covering them, is really very important.
So how can someone tell if a shoe is well made or not? Just by looking at it.
So if you look at the shoes, leather shoes with leather soles can last you for quite a number of years versus something that you buy yearly, and you realize that sometimes they put you in an embarrassing situation. I'm not saying that leather is foolproof, but it definitely is worth the investment.
When you say embarrassing situation, what do you mean?
Sometimes the sole falls off. When I was selling another brand, I had customers come and literally throw the shoe in the shop because although it was a popular European brand, the soles came out because they were cemented. No fault of the manufacturing process, it's just the humidity in our weather. So because of that, most of my shoes are hand stitched. And that helps us deal with the humidity in our weather. So the chances of the shoes splitting is very, very low. However, if the stitch splits, we have to address it, and we know how to address it. It can be done.
What are some of the challenges you face as a designer?
Mental block. Don't feel like designing. Not in the mood. Mainly it's that. And especially when sales are low, because as you correctly say, I am responsible for selling it just as I am responsible for designing it. And when sales are low, you feel that you're not doing something right. So why do it? However, when your customers appreciate your designs, your customers, tell you. I've had customers during COVID who told me, Nita, do not stop. You are doing the right thing. We can't find shoes like this. Please do not stop. Now that inspires me, And when you open a store and customers walk past and say, I remember you. You used to be in Millennia Walk. Money can't buy that. And that is really the fire that ignites my passion.